explainer, everyone. Grab your metaphorical sweatbands because today is all about a dynamic mental workout. We are officially stepping into the brain gym. See, a great riddle doesn't just challenge your intelligence, it completely rewires your perspective. Whether we're talking about traditional wordplay, the creative leaps of lateral thinking, or pure mathematical chaos like Sudoku, puzzles are literally the ultimate resistance training for our minds. Let's get stretched, get challenged, and completely flip how we look at problems.
Here's our workout plan for today. We're going to kick things off with a warm-up, hit Station 1 for wordplay, move to Station 2 for lateral thinking, and then brace ourselves for Station 3, which is pure mathematical chaos. After that, we'll learn to solve like a pro, and finally, take a well-deserved cool down. All right, let's jump right into part 1, the warm-up, diving into the psychology and history of it all. You know, our obsession with puzzles goes way, way back. I'm talking ancient history. Take this Sumerian riddle from literally thousands of years ago, a house you enter blind but come out of with sight. Any guesses? It's a school. Even back then, people just loved using clever language to test wisdom and entertain each other. It really shows this deep historical drive we have to conquer mental challenges. Let's test your brain right now. What has cities but no houses, mountains but no trees, and water but no fish? Just think about that for a second. Did you feel your brain kind of glitch for a moment? You were probably looking for literal houses and literal trees, right? Searching for a physical landscape. The answer, of course, is a map. But why exactly does that brief moment of total confusion happen? Well, what's happening in your head right in that exact moment is called cognitive dissonance. See, your brain relies heavily on this thing called top-down processing, basically using your past experiences to quickly spot patterns. So when a riddle disrupts those assumptions, that top-down processing just completely fails. You're actively flexing your prefrontal cortex, struggling to find a new pattern. That weird tension you feel? That is literally the feeling of your brain getting stronger. Moving on to Section 2, Station 1, the treadmill of wordplay and logic. Think about this sneaky trap of double meanings. I have keys, but no locks. You can enter, but you can't go outside. What am I? Now, if your brain locks onto the image of a literal door key or a physical entryway, you're never going to solve this. The riddle is actively exploiting our literal thinking. It desperately wants you to think of a door. But the second you shift the context of words like keys and enter over to technology, boom, the answer's obvious. It's a keyboard. Wordplay essentially forces us to hold multiple definitions of a single word in our minds at the exact same time. Then there's pure deductive logic. Take the famous Einstein riddle, supposedly whipped up by a young Albert Einstein, and you've probably seen it pop up in TED Ed lessons. You got 5 houses, 5 colors, 5 nationalities, 5 beverages, 5 cigar brands, and 5 pets. The question is, who owns the fish? To figure this out, your brain has to juggle all these overlapping variables in its working memory. You're building mental grids, you're deducing, you're eliminating. It is an absolute high-intensity interval workout for your working memory. All right, Section 3, Station 2, the lateral thinking free weights. To really get this, we need to talk about lateral thinking. This is a term coined by the Maltese physician and psychologist Edward de Bono. It's basically a creative problem-solving method where you look at situations from totally unexpected angles. It forces us to break the linear rules. So instead of just following a straight path to an answer, you're having to invent entirely new conceptual pathways based on the clues you're given. Just look at the contrast here. Vertical thinking is what we're all taught in school, right? It's conventional logic, aiming straight for that single correct answer. But lateral thinking approaches the problem from alternative angles. When you're faced with a tricky situation or puzzle, your brain's standard operating procedure, that vertical thinking, is going to fail you. You absolutely have to go sideways. So let's put that to the test with a classic lateral puzzle. A man walks into a bar and asks the bartender for a glass of water. The bartender pulls out a gun and points it right at him. The man says, "Thank you," and leaves. Why in the world would he do that? Now, if you're using vertical thinking, you're probably assuming it's a robbery or an assault. But apply lateral thinking for a second. Why else would you need water? And why would a sudden scare actually be helpful? The answer? The man had the hiccups. The bartender realized this, scared him with the gun to cure them, and hey, it worked. No water needed. Next up, Section 4. Station 3, mathematical chaos, aka Sudoku. So, computer scientists recently published a really fascinating study comparing 2 distinct algorithms for solving Sudoku. First, you have recursive backtracking. This is pure brute force. The computer just guesses a number, moves forward, and if it hits a wall, it reverts and tries again. Simple, right? But then you have a heuristic-based solver. This actually mimics advanced human intuition. It uses something called constraint propagation, specifically looking for the cell with the minimum remaining value. Basically, it finds a cell with the fewest possible options left. It's highly optimized predictive logic. And to figure out which method was truly superior, these researchers didn't just test a couple of grids. They generated an incredible 500 Sudoku puzzles. And they didn't take it easy on the algorithms either. They scaled them across 5 distinct difficulty levels, all the way from beginner up to extreme, tracking the exact millisecond solve times for both.
The results are pretty wild. At the beginner level, the heuristic solver is only a little bit faster, maybe about 1.27 times. But as that puzzle difficulty scales up towards extreme, the brute force backtracking algorithm just completely struggles. It takes over 360 milliseconds. The heuristic solver, though, it processes the whole thing in just 123 milliseconds. That is a massive 2.91 times speedup. It's solid proof that when puzzles reach extreme mathematical chaos, working smarter with predictive logic absolutely destroys brute force guessing.
All right, on to section 5, solving like a pro. Let's equip you with the ultimate 6-step riddle solvers toolkit. First, read twice. You gotta catch every single detail. Second, spot keywords. Be on the lookout for odd phrasing or double meanings. Third, break it down. Simplify those complex setups. Fourth, brainstorm. List out all your options. Seriously, no matter how wild they seem. Fifth, shift angles. This is your lateral thinking step. Look for puns and alternate contexts. And finally, step 6, eliminate. Drop the misfits. Using this systematic approach ensures you deconstruct the problem without falling into those literal top-down processing traps we talked about.
And finally, section 6, the cool down.
Just like a real workout, there are incredibly concrete brain health benefits to this mental gym routine. Engaging with puzzles enhances your cognitive flexibility, which is your ability to quickly switch between different concepts. It heavily sharpens your memory retention, especially your working memory. Plus, it boosts critical thinking, improves your baseline focus, and fosters deep mental adaptability. I mean, just like lifting weights protects your physical body, keeping up with this regular mental routine keeps your mind razor sharp and super resilient. Well, that brings us to the end of this explainer. But before we go, I want to turn this lateral thinking lens directly back onto your everyday life. We established earlier that cognitive dissonance is just the feeling of your assumptions failing. So, if a truly great puzzle completely rewires your perspective, what assumption is your brain failing to question right now? Seriously, think about that as you go through your week. Keep flexing that prefrontal cortex, and I'll see you next time.